close. All right. Bam. All right. Anybody here yet? Let's see how that works. No one's here yet. Okay. Doing my Dr. Grieger imitation here. minus the veganism, I suppose. Anyway, that's probably not gonna work. Let me go over here, guys. Gotta work better. All right, so let's go in there. How is the neck? Jay Hornstein. Well, it's still there for sure. So like I've got some burning down my hand right now. So I've been doing quite a bit of physical therapy type things, a lot of like nerve glide, things like that. That seems to help a little bit. But how different? I got a whole bunch of people in here, Dr. Grieger. Yeah, the 8 of Carnival. Yeah, I can't. Unfortunately, I was trying to do the Dr. Grieger thing, but unfortunately the print is too small to read from as far back as it is, so I can't quite doing that. So anyway, got a lot of people in here chatting here. So have you tested my calcium score, says Richard Jaffe. I have. I did that a few years back. It was a 0. I'm probably due for another one probably next year. So I'll update one next year and see how that looks. So anyway, is Carnivore safe for someone with ventricular tachycardia and hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, says Primal Pagan 76. I don't really see a contraindication, in that case. I mean, what I always tell people is good nutrition is always going to be beneficial in pretty much in every situation there is. Doesn't matter what it is. And so meat is good nutrition. It's as clear as that. So, I mean, there's really no, I can think of very rare exceptions where that would be the case. So most medical conditions, are going to be fine with that for the most part. All right, what else we got here? What kind of car is that? The one right behind me, that is my girlfriend's, actually both of those in there. There's a little Porsche Boxer. It's like a clown car for me. I can't even get in. I'm able to sit in the front seat like barely with my knees up in my face, and I can't drive the thing, so it's impossible for me to actually drive. I can't even fit behind the steering wheel in that. And this is a Porsche Cayenne that she has. So she likes those Porsches. So both of those are cars. My truck is parked outside. I have a gym and where my parking space would have been, which is more useful to me. So I just drive a truck. Brooke Graves, is at the C6 or what level? What I have is C7 radiculopathy, and so it's the injuries between C6 and C7, and so what happens is, disc is pushed out, and pushes on a nerve root, and then you just have symptoms with that. It's been going on. I think I'm now into my, I want to say 7 weeks in, so still fairly significant symptoms. So unfortunately, it's still lingering, but I'm continuing to do what I need to do to get better. Do you know what is underrated? Water. Okay, yeah. Dr. Iron Mom, Richard, I've done the calcium score, also 0. Yeah, the calcium score, there are people that are critical of it. Say, well, it doesn't show soft plaque, but it's still a really good screening tool. It's far better than, just looking at, like a biomarker, because it actually represents what's been going on. Now, is it helpful in a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old? Probably not. Once you get, kind of, in my ancient realm, 50 plus, I'm getting close to 60 now. It becomes more useful for predictions and things like that. Emmy, I'm on day 5 and I vaped here and there prior to it, and that said, can I vape? I'm not your mother. Do whatever you want. I don't think vaping is, it's better than smoking, arguably. It's not ideal, obviously, but like I said, you do what you want to do. You're a big person and grown up, so if you want to vape. Is it optimal for you? Probably not. Jeff Baxter, why are there no restaurants to target carnivores? I think there are. You go to like these Brazilian churrascarias and things like that, steakhouses. There's meat. There's a lot of meat for that. But I mean, yeah, I see what you say. You could have something that's like, no oils, no sugary sauces, things like that for sure. I mean, you can usually get it that way though. All right, what else do we got? Are those shirts available to purchase? Is EDS Airbrush Graphics? The one I'm wearing is not. Somebody sent it to me, and I can't remember who it was. Unfortunately, I forget. We have we have a few shirts on our YouTube channel that are there that are some interesting things. So you can look at those. We got Missouri in the house, says Nilda Bridgman. Good to see you. Bruce Meyer. I eat the soy meat and say hello from heaven. I say hello from heaven. Okay. Hello from Croatia. This is Christian Gortan. Well, I was in Croatia last August. I went to Dubrovnik. I also spent some time in Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I guess technically the Herzegovina part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. But yeah, beautiful country. I really thought Croatia was quite pretty. Jenny C. Hi, Dr. Baker. Been watching for over 2 years now. Well, thanks, Jenny. Appreciate you checking it out. What else we got? Cody and Mitsku at videos. Are you getting messages? Well, I'm getting these messages. What do you think about the role of probiotics and fermented foods in a carnivore diet, as William Davis suggests probiotics? Well, I mean, obviously, they're really not part of a carnivore diet. Now, are they beneficial to you? I would say they're probably less unbeneficial or less harmful to you than maybe some of the unfermented foods. I know guys like Bill Schindler, big fans of fermentation, because when it's pre-fermented, then our gut tends to ferment it less. And one of the problems with our gut fermenting things, sometimes people have problems with fermentation because fermentation produces a lot of gas. A lot of gas can be, uncomfortable. You may argue it leads to gut dysfunction. So it's probably better than not eating fermented foods. Is it necessary? Is it great? Is it going to provide a huge bit of benefit? I'm not sure. I would say, do your own research on yourself and see how you do with it. Nothing wrong with trying. It'll either work or it won't. Jenny C says she loves my content. Well, thank you. Do I do any HIIT, high intensity interval training? I do. Yeah, I do quite a bit of that. In fact, I've done quite a bit over the years. I've got, whether it's outside sprinting or I've got, I can show you a little, something I'm in the gym right now. So there's a rower, there's an assault bike, or not, it's an Airdyne X basically. And this is an assault runner I've got there. So I can do HIIT on all those types of things. And so I've done those over here. I think it's an efficient way. In fact, it's kind of funny. we got this kid staying at the house now. He's from France. He's an au pair. And we had him 3 years ago. His name's Terry, real nice, super nice guy. And he shows up, come back for round 2, 3 years later, and he's put on like 30, 40 pounds of just, fattened up. And I was like, Terry, dude, we got to fix this. So I've been feeding him, he's been here like 3 or 4 days. I've been feeding him steak and eggs every day, Of course, he's happy eating steaks. Like, man, he loves eating steaks. But so no more bullshit. Got all that out of the diet, and I got him working out. I got him doing nothing crazy yet, but I had him do a little bit of bike sprints today. Just 10 seconds on, 50 seconds off. He said, I feel like I'm going to vomit, because it's just the way it is. But I'm just going to kind of ease him into this stuff, even though technically it's tough. But anyway, I told him I think I could probably take 20 pounds off of him in 6 weeks, and he'll start feeling better and looking better. And so because he's only 23, 24 young kid. So anyway, Captain Tom Doc says 3 days ago I did my first push-up in 30 plus years. Next day I did 2. Yesterday I did 3. There you go, man. That's it, Captain Tom. That's it. I mean, there you go. I mean, that's how you do it. You start with 1 and you keep moving up, and eventually you'll be knocking out sets of 50. Good for you, man. That's what's awesome. Holly Crazy, my calcium score is high, but all my other tests are optimal. Had a nuclear test, great flow. All right, well, like I said, just get as much information as you can. How much water do I drink daily? This is from Dan Harrington. If I had to guess, I probably drink 1.5 gallons, something like that. It depends on, how active and how sweaty I am. But I drink a decent amount. I think, I drink to thirst. If I'm thirsty, I drink. If I'm not thirsty, I don't drink. I mean, it makes sense. I do drink some electrolytes. I use these little element products just because I am often exercising and sweating. And so that's, something that I do. All right, I'm on a carnivore diet for 5 days. Why was I thinking about, okay, vaping. Okay, never mind. All right, my favorite response from Dr. Baker, I'm not your mom. Day 3 of carnivore detoxing. Ugh, did electrolytes today. Can't wait to feel good, says Nancy. Well, hang in there, Nancy. Now, I can tell you that, for most people, transition period's a couple weeks to even as much as 2 months. So we'll just have to see how you do. So, Sir Cameron, hey, Dr. Baker, thanks for the Q&As and comment sessions. I love your steak, meat versus vegan. Yeah, it's just a kind of interesting contrast because they have to, it's like, what's that cartoon meme about, look what they have to do to mimic even a fraction of our power, right? I mean, they've got all this crazy concoctions of multiple ingredients. And it's not even, it's still a poor facsimile. I mean, it's like the steak they make is just like, oh, it looks awful anyway. I'm sure it doesn't taste that good. And yet they're doing all that work to try to even get a little bit of the feeling and the flavor that you get out of a steak, which is so good. Any COVID recovery tips? Gosh, I mean, that's obviously controversial, but I think, the basic things, stay hydrated, exercise when you're able to, get good sleep, those types of things. I mean, there's some people that have different, vitamin cocktails that you can utilize. I know the FLCCC has they've got a website, I think it's Frontline, I don't know what the triple C stands, but they've got a little cocktail of different things you can try. So look into those guys. Huge respect from Australia, says never conform. Thank you. Light Warrior, no gallbladder. If no gallbladder present, still okay to do carnivore? Yeah, it is. I mean, now there may be some modifications you might have to do, particularly early on, depending on how recently you lost your gallbladder. If your gallbladder's been gone for many, many years, more likely than not, you've probably had, what happens is, just the way it works is, our liver makes bile and it goes down what's called the common hepatic duct. All the little ducts in the liver come together to form the common hepatic duct. That joins something called the cystic duct, which comes from the gallbladder. And then they both join into something called the common bile duct. And that common bile duct then opens up, well, there's a little valve in front of it that opens up and it goes into the small intestine, specifically the duodenum. In response to often fat in the diet, fat in the stomach will then tell the gallbladder, hey, squirt in some bile to emulsify the fat under the hormone influence of something called CCK or cholecystokinin. And when you don't have a gallbladder, what happens is that common bile duct, remember that last part where everything comes together, kind of expands. And so now you have this reservoir, this pool of bile that's waiting there, just waiting for that valve to open. So instead of the gallbladder squeezing it down, you just have a big, larger collection. It just kind of falls in there. And that can expand to a decent amount, maybe not the size of an original gallbladder, but enough usually to where you can generally, properly digest fat. Now, initially, there may be other things going on if you've been on a low-fat diet for years, but some people, when they go on a carnivore, they may have to just kind of maybe have smaller meals, not so much fat at one time that it overwhelms their capacity, and then they end up with diarrhea and that stuff. But generally start out maybe a little bit smaller, more frequent meals, and then like most of us, like I usually eat generally 2 meals a day. Like today, I think I had about like 2-pound ribeye for breakfast. I had a little bit of Greek yogurt with that, and then for dinner I had it was probably a little bit of like a pound ribeye, like a little grass-fed ribeye I got from these folks in Arizona, grass-raised beef. They're a good place, by the way. And then a little bit more Greek yogurt with that. So that's 2 meals for me. That was about, I don't know, 3 pounds of meat and I don't know, whatever, half a pound of yogurt or something like that. So, but like I said, I got a gallbladder. I've been used to eating a little bit more fat, so I can handle it pretty well. You might not be able to without a gallbladder until later. Pardaxlius, I think is how you say that. Pardaxlius, 3 months carnivore, getting shredded at the gym. Any farm selling meat online in Canada? Yeah, there are quite a few of them. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I had one company, actually, it was kind of funny. They sent me some meat from Canada, which they literally had to drive it to the border and cross the border and mail it from on the other side. It was kind of crazy because it's hard to ship internationally. But if you go, I know if you go to carnivore.diet and you can sign up for a free month, and you just sign up, you don't have to stay there, just sign up for a free month. Go into our resources, and we have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ranchers that sell online, both in the U.S. and in Canada, and I think in Australia and the U.K. and other places. So you can use that to get some of that information. Hi from Texas, is Scott Robach. Good to see Scott. Nada Bridges, premenopausal, is it healthy for me to eliminate dairy? Well, it could be. I mean, it just depends on how you tolerate it. You know, it's one of those things that dairy, I still consume dairy on a reasonably regular basis. I kind of bring it in and out. There's different reasons why I bring it in and bring it out. But I mean, I think, you know, it depends on what your goals are. You know, if you're at good weight, you like where you're at, you don't want to lose weight, you know, because dairy is one of those things, you know, particularly if it's liquid. You know, liquid calories are very easy to overconsume. That's why people get in a lot of trouble drinking soda pops and all that stuff, because they just slug down all this caloric, non-nutritive stuff. And dairy can be the same way like that. You can overconsume dairy. I mean, you know, if you're trying to put on weight, I mean, dairy is a pretty good source of protein for a lot of people. I mean, obviously it's a calcium source for those people that are interested in that. I suspect with the premenopausal thing, you're thinking about maybe bone mineral density and calcium. I think probably the most important thing you can do with regard to bone mineral density is eat adequate high quality protein, you know, and that's basically animal products, and then work out and then do some strength training. And then the calcium balance it's not that hard to hit. You know, one of the interesting things is we have discovered that if you eat a higher protein diet, you tend to absorb a lot more calcium. And so, and there is calcium in meat, believe it or not. Meat actually steak has calcium in it. So you can probably get most likely what you need with that. Okay. Cody Whippo had issues with gout flares when starting keto, carnivore. Any suggestions or just push through? So again, the gout typically, obviously it's a problem with, you know, if it's truly gout. So you have to say, is it really gout? Could it be pseudo gout? Could it be an oxalate related issue? So we don't know, particularly with keto, because keto tends to have a lot of oxalates, particularly if you're doing the almond flours and the dark chocolates and, you know, some of the keto foods that tend to be, you know, some of the greens and things like that, be high in oxalates. So one thing I will say is what I typically observe is that people that have gout, they almost always, with rare exception, tend to have some sort of metabolic dysfunction. Maybe they're diabetic, pre-diabetic, overweight, metabolic syndrome, hyperinsulinemia, something like that. And there's usually some level of medication going on, and there might be some immune dysfunction. And so what you want to do is fix all those things, right? And how do you fix all those things? You know, like how you fix everything out. You clean up your diet, you start exercising, you stop being sedentary, start getting good sleep, you start managing your stress. And as those things get better, typically the gout goes away, irrespective of, you know, uric acid levels. Uric acid levels are one facet of gout. That is to say, you can have high uric acid and not have any symptoms of gout, right? So it's like a dependent variable, right? So like a lot of these things, it's a problem if X, Y, and Z are in place. Now, if X, Y, and Z are not in place, i.e. inflammation, metabolic syndrome, if it's not there, then even the higher uric acid levels may not be the issue. It may not precipitate gout. Remember, fructose particularly, alcohol are big drivers of gout. So also you want to leave those. But if you're still like, hey, I'm still overweight, I'm still out of shape, and I'm still working it, but I'm having these gout issues, my advice, press on with the diet, keep working to get in shape, but you might have to take some of the gout relieving medications, whether it's the anti-inflammatories or the indomethacin or the allopurinol or colchicine or something like that they often prescribe. There may be some newer ones out there as well, but anyway. All right. Looks like you have a man bun on my tab. I'm not sure what that's about, sorry. Okay, English peasant says, I like that, English peasant. Well, my 13th week carnivore and down to 16 stone, 7 pounds was 20 stone. Oh, that's good. That's, what is that? That's 3 stone and 3 pounds. So is that 45 pounds? Nice job. Yeah, that's a good job. So for you guys that don't speak in stone is 14 pounds. So good for you. That's awesome. All right, J Cell K, do carnivores help a chronic infection for how carnivores help strengthen our immune system? It's interesting. Like I said, if you've got an infection, you want to make sure it's well managed and treated medically. If you need antibiotics or something, like depending on what the infection is. But I do see that people like people that like chronic toenail fungus and stuff like that. That's obviously a chronic infection. It's usually relatively benign. It's kind of localized, and I've seen those things resolve on carnivore for sure. So I suspect as our immune system is strengthened, we are better able to fight off infection. So, again, you don't just, you can't just rely on that solely, although it may help. So you just have to kind of be cautious about that. But yeah, I think it can probably make you more robust so that you can fight off infections. Carnivore Caveman says, hey, Dr. Baker and everybody. Hey, Carnivore Caveman. We got Sharon Burns here from Texas, 30-day carnivore, full ketosis. Need I worry about checking levels? Currently setting at about 2.2. How important are the numbers? In my view, they're not that important. I think, again, why do I say that? Well, because your blood ketone level, assuming you're checking in your blood, is depending on a couple of variables. One is dependent upon how much you're manufacturing, right? How much am I making? How much am I utilizing? How much are my cells using it? And then how much am I wasting it, right? And so if any of those variables change, let's say you get better at utilizing, because that's what happens a lot of times. You just get better at using ketones. So when they're produced, your body sucks them right up and uses them right away, so they don't last as long. So the point is, you can, let's say you want to lose weight. You can lose weight without ketones. You can lose weight with ketones. Conversely, you can gain weight even though you're in ketosis. You can lose weight while you're in ketosis. So it's not the end-all, be-all of the metrics you want to measure. A lot of people get stressed out about it. And so I tend to tell people just, what is your goal? Your goal, if your goal is purely what your number is on your blood test, then I think it's not a really helpful goal. I think your goal should be, I want to feel better. I want to perform better. I want to have less, better body composition. So I want to mentally work better. And that's the thing that you should be really concerned about if those things are happening, regardless of what your particular numbers are. Thaddeus Pittman, thoughts on eccentric training programs at short-term, long-term? Eccentrics have a pretty solid evidence behind them that they're effective. And so for those who don't understand negatives, like, when you're lowering weight to do a bench press, you're doing what's called an eccentric contraction. So you're stabilizing, and you're using antagonist muscles to lower whatever you're doing in many cases. And so, eccentric training can be good. Stimulating and make you quite sore. So you just have to be mindful about the volume you use, I think. Andre P. 2 years carnivore, gut issues gone. Packed on lean muscle with ease now, doc. You have to do a steak meetup when you are next back in Houston. Okay, well, that sounds reasonable to me. I think I've got my sister and my mother live in Houston, so I do get there from time to time. So I'm not sure when I'll be there next, but I was there just in beginning of August. I got too much damn travel already. I've got to go, what's this thing? I've got to fly down to LA for just a quick day in October. And then on October 31st, I fly to Germany for 5 days. And then that'll take me into early November. Then I think November 11th, I got to fly down to Florida for a conference I'm speaking at. And then the latter half of November, I'm going to be in Egypt for a week or so. So I got a lot of travel upcoming. I haven't really looked at my next year's stuff. All right, somebody kicked in 20 somethings. All right, so beefy nurse, $20. Thank you. Was vegan, now carny since September 18, lost 17 pounds. I'm sorry how the vegan world attacked you. Very ignorant. I think you're informative and easy to listen to. Learn a lot from you. Thank you for that. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, this is a funny thing. Because probably most people or many people came to know me when I went on Rogan's podcast, and I didn't go on there with any expectations of really anything. He said, hey, dude, you want to come on and talk about stuff? I said, sure, I'll come on and chat. And it wasn't like I didn't even realize at the time that it was he had that much of an influence. And even now, that was back in 2017, even now he's gotten even so much more. And so I just went out there and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm seeing some people getting healthy. And then I was just assaulted by every vegan, all the vegan influencers, YouTube people that started attacking me. So I just, I pushed back because I'm not a guy that sits there and rolls over. And so I just kind of went back. And so it's been a lot of back and forth. And some of it's goofy. I mean, my honest feeling is I don't care what people do. And if they want to be vegan, I mean, maybe not your kids and your cats. I mean, I think that's kind of goofy to do that. But if somebody wants to eat a certain way, I think good for you. I don't think it's the best way to eat. If it floats your boat and it works for you, that's great. But the problem is, as you probably know, many vegans, maybe not all, but many of them want to sort of eliminate my ability to eat how I feel, how I want to eat, right? And that's a problem, particularly when they're calling you a murderer and an animal abuser and a rapist and all that, whatever. I mean, this is the stuff they call out. And it's like, why are you such a psychopath? Why are you calling it's like 99% of the planet, 99% of the humans on the planet are murderers and rapists, right? Well, that's a pretty crazy, that's gonna be a crazy mental thing to be. Like everybody you look around, like, oh my God, all these people are murdering people. It's like, they're not people, it's crazy. Anyway, there's so much hypocrisy, and I won't go into that, but I mean, as you probably know, I mean, animals are dying no matter what, and it's just like, you do the best you can, but at the end of the day, I don't care if you're eating, if you're wearing clothes, if you're doing anything, right? So anyway, thanks for that. Thanks, Beefy Nurse. All right, what else we got? Let me go back to some other questions. What do I think about kefir, I think. I mean, it can be fine. This is fermented milk product. I think the problem with most of the commercial varieties, again, are loaded up with sugar and crap. So if you can avoid that, make your own perhaps, I think it could be fine. Again, if you tolerate dairy. Marvin Maley, I think. Howdy, Dr. Baker from East Texas. Good job on Carnivore Way of Life. Well, thanks. Carnivore Way of Life. What is Carnivore Way of Life? Is that a program or something? I don't remember. East Texas. So I used to be married to a gal who was from Lufkin, Texas, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So I spent quite a bit of time in the piney woods of East Texas. You went to, they had a lot of paper mills, I remember, out there in Lufkin. But so I spent my time in East Texas. There's always, I don't know if you're familiar, there's a place called Vidor, Texas, which I guess qualifies as East Texas. There's always kind of it was kind of funny as hospital, they would call it a positive Vidor sign, because it was just people there. It seemed like there was a lot of people up there with some issues, kind of really issues. They would call it a positive Vidor sign. If somebody came in there just totally jacked up, So anyway, it's a kind of an inside joke, but anyway, Vidor, Texas. All right, Righteous Barber, 200 days on carbs, still crave carbs. I work out and sleep good. I'm not fat and wasn't pre-diabetic. I'm taking plenty of electrolytes and drinking plenty of water. Never have energy. Well, I mean, I would look at, making sure you're consuming just enough food. I mean, that may be it, maybe enough fat. I mean, those are some things I would investigate to make sure you're consuming enough, because that's obviously, if you don't have enough energy, you're going to be tired. 200 days, you should be through most of the transition points. It sounds like, you said, I'm taking electrolytes. I'm not, you don't have any other issues going on. So make sure you're eating enough food. And then, if that doesn't work, try something else. So Doc B, you're the man, says Ryan Unknown. Well, thanks, Ryan. J-Cell K from Philippines. Does carnivore help a chronic bacterial infection? We talked about this immune system. Yes, we talked about this a second ago. Ryan saying, like, see other fellow Texas carnivores in the house. Yeah, Texas. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Texas. So how do you feel about stem cell treatment for your neck, says Jay Hortenson? Not particularly too enthused about it. I think the literature on stem cell treatments, the actual science versus the hype, there's a lot of hype out there. There's hype about a lot of this stuff. And in the actual scientific data, at least the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons have looked into stem cell stuff, and the actual clinical trial results are kind of not that great. So, I think, like I said, I've got a cervical disc that's ruptured or herniated, most likely. I'm supposed to get an MRI here in the near future, but regardless, 80% of the time that's going to resolve on its own. It's just a matter of, it just sucks right now. It's just kind of like, you're sitting there having a hard time sleeping. I'm still working out, even though it's painful, but I mean, still get the workouts done. You just kind of like, no point in getting weak, right? And so yeah, it's just like I have to kind of it's kind of funny. So I'll do this. If I turn my head this way and I reach my arm back and I stretch, that stretches out the median nerve, and that's part of C7. The C7 contributes to that. So that stretching basically pulls a nerve away from the irritated area. So it just gives me a little bit of relief for, a few minutes, and you do that, and, you do that several times, and, you do that 20, 30 times, and you feel good for the next 20, 30 minutes. And so I just kind of spend my day, it's kind of funny. But anyway, we're getting there. We're going to get better. All right. Patrick E., hello from Montreal, or Montreal. All right. We could say, how are things all? So then on low carb, a while, lost 65 pounds last year. I love the low carb info conjugated with fighting back vibe. Thanks, bro. All right, man. Well, thank you. Thank you from Montreal. Awesome. Happy to see you. Happy to see you live. Okay. Gracias for videos. Okay. Thank you. It says something. Liams EMC. Sorry. Some of these, names, they're like letters you can't repronounce as a word. So anyway. All right. What else? Hopefully I'm back. So anyway, I'm having these connection things. Anyway, from Hawaii, this is from Taya, I think is how you say that. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. And I know, depending on what part you're in, I know I've got some friends that live in Maui, and a friend that lives in Lahaina that lost her home, and she's living in a Red Cross shelter with her 3 kids. It's tough, her and her husband and 3 kids. So I know it's been a rough type of thing. Wow. T-Fresh Carnivore, I lost 400 pounds. That's amazing. Was 629, now 220 pounds, doing it. No more diabetes, no more high blood pressure. Doctors took me off all meds. A1C was over 12, now 4.9 to 5.1 for 4 years straight. That's awesome. Good for you. I'll tell you what, if you want to, I'd love to interview you guys. If you want to just, if you'll send me an email to community. So community at carnivore.diet. We'd love to get you on there and interview that stuff. But, I just did a video this morning about this, and, I don't mean this to be offensive or anything like that, but as somebody who is 628 pounds, unless you were 9 feet tall, you were in this class, what we call it's now super morbid obesity, above 600 or above 60 BMI. And that is just such a dangerous place to be. I mean, life expectancy for that is very short. So good for you for turning that around. Not many people do that. A lot of people die. They just up and die. And some will lose 50, 100 pounds and put it back on, but to lose it and maintain it is fantastic. So good for you to do that. That's wonderful. It's inspiring. Airborne, are you a lot bigger now than when you were in the military? No, I'm not. I'm very similar sized. It depends on when, because my military weight varied. When I went in, it was kind of funny. When I went into officer training school, I thought I had to be under a certain weight. I can't remember what it was, but I skinny down. I got down as lean as I could. And then it came to turn out I didn't need to be that lean. I didn't need to be that light, because I remember I, starved myself a bit. So I think I started in the military probably around, I was probably 220, 230, something like that. And I lost weight to get down there because I'd been heavier before that. And then I think in the military, I was up to, I think at my heaviest, I was probably maybe 270, 275, something like that. I still passed all the physical fitness tests and stuff like that. And they didn't mess with me because I was a surgeon. I was like, I'm good. I'm already in decent shape. But I remember when I went to Afghanistan, I remember I had, me and my partner, we had a concerted effort to lean out. So I think I lost about 25 pounds while I was in Afghanistan, over the winter and spring that I was there. And so I came back home, I was back around probably 235, 240, like we're about where, well, I'm a little heavier right now. Right now I'm probably 255-ish, somewhere in there, which is, pretty decent weight. But anyway. DS111, I work in drywall construction for small contractors by day. I am bombing out work faster now because of Carnivore, which equates to higher hourly rate because finishing tasks much faster. Well, good for you. And I know that drywall stuff that's a skill, man. I know there's a lot of people that can't do that stuff very well. I mean, or putting up the Drywall can be a pain. Tret says, I only eat cauliflower, rice, and broccoli. Everything else is meat. Okay. Well, first I was worried you said you only eat cauliflower and broccoli, and then I read the rest. So, well, I'm glad you're getting plenty of meat in there. That's going to help you keep you satiated and keep you healthy. That's what you need. Yeah. All right. All right, Rezal, can anybody help Carnivore if it's acute for somebody without a gallbladder and has acute pancreatitis? So the gallbladder question is yes, you definitely can do Carnivore without the gallbladder. Now the pancreatitis, one of the problems with pancreatitis is, you've got this hot inflamed pancreas. It's going to be over secreting. You want it to calm down, and so it's secreting amylase and lipase. That's why they check. That's so they actually evaluate. What's your amylase and lipase numbers? They're super elevated. That's a problem. So what I would suggest, if you're going to do Carnivore, you'd have to go very, very easy on the fat for a while until that pancreatitis calms down. Why would my creatinine be low? All of the blood work is good. I don't know how low it was, but it could just been hydration issues. I don't know how big you are. If you're small, if you're a relatively small person, that could be it. Usually creatine is reflective of muscle mass. Well, it can be reflective of a couple things, but usually in the context of people working out, people that have high creatine, or creatinine rather, sorry. I don't know if you said creatinine. Well, I don't know if it's creatine, which you probably didn't measure. You're probably talking about creatinine. So creatinine and creatine are different. Creatinine is something we measure that reflects, or in theory, it reflects kidney function. Creatine is obviously the supplement we take that's also found in meat. And you can measure serum creatine, but it's rarely, if ever, done. So it's probably a creatinine you're measuring. And that, again, as I was going to say, serum creatinine can be a marker of kidney disease if it's high. That can be, but very often what I see in the context of people on higher protein diets, it's just that. It can also just mean you're eating a lot of protein, or you have a lot of muscle mass, or you're turning over a lot of muscle through a lot of exercise and workout. So you just have to know what's going on. So why it could be low, either you're a very small person, or it could be that maybe you're overhydrated or something like that. Those are things I would think of. All right, here's another dollar amount question from, looks like from Matt Van Emmen. Been on TRT for 5 years. Will Carnival reverse? And should I stop the treatment to see if natural improvement weeks in and down 23 pounds? Well, somebody goes, I'm not a big fan of TRT. I don't take TRT. I understand why some people do it. I think most people on TRT probably don't need to be on TRT. What they need is, intensive diet and lifestyle management. I think that's it, but most people don't want to do that. And, the problem with TRT is it's going to interrupt your endogenous production. So it's going to shut down your testosterone function. And that's the problem with that is, like I said, our hormone fluctuations and surges and things like that are designed to occur diurnally. We're supposed to, our natural patterns is testosterone rises early in the morning and then falls, and it may rise in response to other things, sexual activity, exercise, things like that. And so there's, you want to have that natural sort of secretion. That's a better way to do it, because when you take supplementation, it's often, once a week you take this injection. And there's other ways to do it, but that's probably one of the more common ways to do it. They usually take, a couple hundred milligrams of testosterone. I think the common dose is like 200 a week or something like that. And you just take your dose, and then the stuff rises way high, and then it slowly just falls. And so you never have the natural variability that you're supposed to have. So that's a problem. What I would say is the majority of the people that have low testosterone, whether it's low serum values or just poor testosterone, there's such thing as androgen resistance. So we have receptors that these receptors are also part of the equation. We've all heard of insulin resistance, right? If you have insulin receptors that are very resistant to insulin, you need more and more insulin to do that. We can have testosterone resistance, so that you need more and more and more testosterone to have an effect. And so what happens is, a lot of times in those cases, you take more and more testosterone, so it gets converted to estrogen. So then you have these issues with estrogenation of tissues. So better, in my view, to maybe stay on it initially, and then just start really, really focusing on lifestyle, diet, sleep, until then you can consider, okay, can I wean myself off of this stuff? And I've seen a number of guys have been able to do that because, most people would prefer not to be on it, right? I don't want to have to, take a shot every week and go to the doctor all the time and get refills. And, it's just inconvenient. It's costly. It can be costly. I mean, the testosterone replacement business is like a $4 billion industry right now. So they're making a lot of bank on this stuff. So telling every guy out there, oh, you need to get on testosterone replacement. In fact, most guys don't. Most guys just need to, get good sleep, stop doing bullshit, stop eating garbage, stop drinking so much, get in the gym, eat enough, good high quality food, and that's gonna solve it for probably 95% plus of the people who want to do that. But I mean, the testosterone people that are pushing this stuff will tell you a very different story. They'll be like, oh, it's normal, you got to be on it. All these guys are on it. Don't cheat yourself. Take this drug, and of course they're making money off you the whole time, right? So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the little thing there. Okay, little 88-940. Do you ever cook brisket? I do. I cook it. I've got a little Traeger, a smoker. It's over there. You can't see it. It's outside. I'm in the garage right now, but it's on the back porch. I do. Yeah, I do it about once every 3 months. I'll throw out a big old brisket and do that. So it's quite good. Donna Clancy, question: will Revero ever make it to Fresno, California? Very helpful. Oh, of course, yeah. We're gonna. We in fact, California is one of the first states we open it. So, it's digital, so you can access it from anywhere in the country, basically. So I mean, we have doctors licensed in all 50 states right now. So we're just finishing up the last bit of software stuff to make sure all the regulatory stuff. There's so many things you got to do to get to do a nationally level certified healthcare company. There's just so much that goes into that. Just all the contracts you have to sign. We had to form 6 different companies. I mean, it's crazy to think about all you got to do. So anyway. All right. Nilda Brisbane, what kind of doctor do you go for your blood work? I just order my own whenever I feel like getting it because I'm already a doctor, so I know how to interpret my own blood work, so I don't really personally do that. But I mean, primary care physician would be good. Like this is the thing, and you mentioned, somebody mentioned Revero. This is the thing. Depending on who you go to and what their bias is and what their training is, they look at blood work very differently. One doctor will tell you that's fine. The other doctor will tell you, oh my God, you need to be on these drugs. So you just need to go with somebody you think understands what you're coming from. So Richard Jaffe, do I limit the amount of saturated fat? Not really intentionally. I mean, it's interesting, this whole question about saturated fat and is it harmful? Does it drive heart disease? Well, the answer to that is it's probably nuanced, right? First of all, there's many types of saturated fat. There's not just saturated fat. There's oleic acid and palmitic acid and stearic acid and myristic acid and lauric acid and, on and on and on and on. There's, like 20 types of saturated fat. And then there's, you look at the data on saturated fat, and there's associations between saturated fat consumption and heart disease. It's all, again, population-based studies. The problem is, where do most Americans get their saturated fat from, right? You're like, where do most Americans get their saturated fat from? You would say, well, it's, meat and eggs and dairy. Well, that's partially true, but the real answer to that is the majority of saturated fat consumed in the United States is consumed in the form of snack foods, desserts, and I guess sandwiches are the 3 places where most of the calories that saturated fats are. So it's like ice cream and cakes and cookies and all that stuff that might have eggs and dairy in it. So that's where most of the saturated fat is coming from. So the question is it the saturated fat or is it the garbage that it's in? You can make that same argument about seed oils. I mean, where do most seed oils come from? Well, it's, again, potato chips and cookies and crackers and garbage and sauces and all that stuff. So it's not as sort of cut and dried. And, like I said, there was a nice article in the JACC, the Journal of American College of Cardiology, in 2020. It was called the State of the Art Review or something like that on saturated fat. And basically what they concluded was saturated fat in the context of natural whole foods like meat, eggs, dairy, I think they even put chocolate in there, are not associated with disease. They're not driving disease. And so I don't limit saturated fat, like in those foods, because I don't believe that meat is causing disease, and I mean, I think that's a pretty reasonable argument to make, because we're seeing, what are we seeing with all these people going on a carnivore diet? Well, they're not dropping dead of heart attacks. I mean, there's, very few isolated cases, and most of those people that have gone on to say they've had some kind of heart disease or blockage had a history of heart disease. They had like 10, 20 years already of heart disease. So we're not seeing a lot of de novo carnivore people all of a sudden seizing up going to heart attacks. It's just not happening. Certainly not at the rate that we see it in the general population. Now we've got literally tens upon tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people who've done carnivore right now. We're just not seeing these, oh my God, all these people are dropping dead of heart attacks. We're just not seeing that. So the question becomes, what is driving heart disease? And my thought is probably all the ultra processed garbage. It's probably the sedentary behavior. It's probably stress. It's probably smoking. Those things that we've seen, and we're just eating so much ultra processed garbage now. I think that's the real dietary culprit. All right, let's go here. What else do we have here? Oh, a bunch of questions here. John Rice says, heavy whipping cream have a lot of casein. So casein is a protein, right? And heavy whipping cream is almost pure fat. There's very little protein in there. So I haven't looked at that particular, but my assumption would be it would have a very small amount, because mostly heavy whipped cream is almost a pure fat. I mean, you can look on the cart and see which protein is in there, but I don't think it has much in there. Okay, what else we got? We got John Rice is eating a T-bone in Texas. All right, well, nice. All right. OR, no more smelly feet on carnivore. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I can tell you as an orthopedic surgeon, and particularly when we did foot and ankle stuff, we would rotate through the foot and ankle service, and you take care of a lot of diabetic feet. You smell some smelly feet. That was, sometimes you walk around like, and that smell would linger with you all day long. You just couldn't get it out of your nose. Like, awful. I'll tell you one of the funniest, it was literally like, it stunk up the entire hospital, like the operating room. There were like 20 operating rooms, and like you go in there, one operating room would be stinky, but this one stunk up the whole region for like 100 feet. This guy had something called Fournier's gangrene. And so Fournier's gangrene is basically gangrene of the genitals and scrotum. This is a bad diabetic, obese guy, and they were in there just breeding, doing whatever they were doing, just cutting that loose. And literally what they do in the OR is they'll wear a mask, and then they'll put some scent, like root beer or lemon or some flavor, so you can try to mask that smell, because it's so awful. It's kind of crazy. All right, we got another $5 question from TK. TK, opinions on raw eggs. I drink about half a dozen a day post-workout, and it's better than any protein shake. Well, it's a complete source of both protein and fats. So I think that's an advantage compared to just a protein shake. I mean, protein shakes, they're a good source of protein. I mean, they clearly are, but they tend to lack vitamins. They tend to lack fats, which fats certainly can be, and I think are anabolic. Studies on cholesterol showing that people that consume cholesterol tend to produce more testosterone and put on more muscle than those that don't. So my thoughts on raw eggs, they're fine, most likely. I mean, one of the concerns would be, obviously, are you going to get an infection? Am I going to get a salmonella or a listeria infection or something like that? The odds of you getting an infection from a raw egg are something like, or just to be exposed to a contaminated egg, at least in the U.S. system, it's like 1 out of every 20,000 eggs. So if you eat, you think about how long it takes you to eat 20,000 eggs. I mean, at least a couple of years, right? I mean, so you're very unlikely to ever be exposed to some sort of contaminant, particularly if you rinse the eggs or something like that. It's very unlikely. The only thing I would say about raw eggs is that, there are studies that will say that cooked eggs have a little bit better bioavailability for protein. I mean, it's debatable, but there are some studies that show that. I think that if you were just eating raw egg whites by itself and nothing else, just plain straight egg whites, which some people have done, raw, then you could run into some issues with this compound called avidin, which binds biotin. So you could end up with a possible biotin deficiency syndrome. But a whole egg by itself, I do it all the time. I've probably had thousands of raw eggs over my life, and I'm not worried about it. So I think they're fine. And you're right, they're a pretty good source of protein for sure. Each egg is going to give you about 6 grams of protein, so not bad. me see. Okay, we got another, sorry, we got another question here for 10 something. SC Mordak, I guess $10. Thank you for educating me on carnivore. I was a vegetarian for 20 years, and after ballooning up to 245 pounds, I realized that I had to change something to improve my health. I'm down 20 pounds. Well, good for you. Like I said, I think irrespective of what diet you go on, whether it's carnivore or not, I think, I'm definitely in the protein-centric camp. I think focusing on protein, if you're not going to consume carbs, and fats are very important. I think fats are important anyway. I mean, fats have fat-soluble vitamins, which are important. So, you don't have to necessarily overdose on fat. I know there's a lot of people within the keto carnivore space that like to, be like the eating sticks of butter and stuff like that. I don't know, I think there's a limit to that. You can do some of that. If you start doing too much of it, it becomes a problem. It can lead to digestive malabsorption issues. For some people, they tend to gain weight. I wonder why, well, I'm eating sticks of butter. Why are you losing, gaining weight? But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, meat is such a good food. I mean, it's so good for us. And it's something that a lot of people, it's crazy what we're in. It's crazy that we're in a situation where there are people in the world that are like, we need to ban meat. I mean, that's such a crazy thing. And we've all got to put in, like I've said, guys, I mean, you guys listen to my videos. I say, it's up to us. All of us can literally impact and pick winners and pick losers. And if you want the bug guys to win, then you don't say anything. Then you just keep buying the processed garbage, because they're gonna, as long as you keep eating the processed garbage and they're making money off it, they're gonna keep pushing for more of that, because the more the profit they make, the more profit they want to make. So they get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, because meat is not cheap for them to, they don't make a lot of profit on meat. So they're like, well, this isn't as, I can make 800% markup on this processed garbage, where I can only make 50% markup on meat or something. I don't know, the economics are, I mean, not exactly that, but they are something about that. Meat, a steak is about a 2.5 year commitment, from the time, that animal is bred, and, it just takes a long time to produce that steak that you get. So it's a lot of equipment. So whereas they can whip up something like that in a day or two, this highly processed garbage. So anyway, thanks for that, though. Travis Statham, look at that. Hey Travis, what's going on, bud? How's the master's program working out there at Utah State? Vegan of 17 years messaged me yesterday, and I am convinced her to eat steak. There you go. Good job, Trav. For you guys who don't know, Travis has it's called Meatrition, I think. I can't remember the name of your website, but there's some good information, like on the history of carnivore and history of meat, some good scientific information. So, veganism is a religion. Yeah, it does seem that way, says Nilda Bridgman. Beefy Nurse said, I have 4 teeth literally crumbled and split in half. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of vegans will have dental issues. I mean, yeah, and you think about it, what does that say about your diet? If your teeth start decaying or getting cavities, or, just inflamed gums, that's not sort of conducive to long life, and it's not conducive to, that indicates the diet is a problem. Our teeth are supposed to last. I mean, you look at these ancient, fossils of humans from however long ago, thousands of years ago, even in some cases millions of years ago, their teeth are the only thing that are left. Our teeth are supposed to last a lifetime plus, right? And if your teeth are rotting in your head while you're still alive, there's a problem with your diet. I mean, my teeth, like I said, never even have to go to the dentist anymore. It's just like, teeth never have problems. So how many old people how many old people are walking around with, partials and, bridges and, implants? I mean, all their teeth is rot out of their head. That is not normal, right? Your teeth should last you, all your teeth should be there the rest of your life. All right. E says, I'm a big fan of chicken. Okay. What else we got here? Just going to scroll through some of these questions here. Guys, I'm in Ukraine, RN in real life. Hold up, there's Russian. Okay, I'm not sure what that's about. TP says, thank you for all your work out. Thanks, TP, appreciate it. Charger Mopar, there's my man. He's down in Florida, 40-year carnivore. What's going on, Rick? How you doing? So good information about the whole stem cell concept. Yeah, I think it's a lot of over. I mean, there's a lot of people. The story sounds great. There's these stem cells that are just, they can do anything, they can grow in anything they want, they can convert, and we can do this stuff. And again, what happens in a petri dish and what actually happens in the body are often two very different things. They sometimes embellish the results. They want it to be true. I mean, the honest answer is I don't think it works that well. I mean, I really don't. I know there's people who say I had it done and I felt better. I mean, but some of those people are going to be, it's like anything, sometimes just time. There's like, it's just like there's placebo effect. There's just time, like, well, I had an injury and it was bugging me and then I took the stem cells and I got better. And sometimes it's just a temporary intervention. Sometimes it's like, well, if you wouldn't have done anything, it would have gotten better anyway. So you need some strong placebo-controlled randomized control trials on that. And I suspect some of them have been done, and I don't think the results thus far have been all that impressive. So anyway, and the one thing I will say is even if stem cells work, and let's say they have an impact and they can make a small effect, I tell this to everybody. It's like, I'm gonna undergo a procedure. I'm like, I'll use like a knee replacement, for example, because I used to do a lot of knee replacements. A knee replacement is like putting in like new carpet or new flooring in your house, right? So, you got a house, the kitchen floor is all, the linoleum's all ripped up and crappy and, stained, and you want to get rid of it and you want some new stuff, right? So you go, I'm gonna put a new floor in it. It's like a new knee, right? But the problem is, if you think about it, if at the time you're like thinking about putting new flooring in your house, the only problem is your house is on fire. There's a fire and your house is on fire, right? Smoke everywhere, it's burning. That would not be the best time to put a new floor in there, right? I mean, I know would think that. Well, it's the same with the body. If the body is on fire metabolic, all this chronic inflammation is going on, it just doesn't make the best sense to do these things until you put the fire out. So fix the metabolic issues, calm the inflammation down, and then you can see, maybe you don't need a new knee replacement. Maybe you don't need a new floor. You kind of see what goes on, but it's tough to make these decisions when, you hurt because you're inflamed, and you're inflamed because you're eating all this sugary crap, and you make a decision that you might regret. Whereas you could say, hey, let me just fix my diet. Give me 3-6 months, see how I'm doing. And I see a lot of people that have done that now. They literally had a surgeon like, chomping at the bit. Hey man, I got you on the OR schedule. We got time. Here we go, October 5th, we're good. We'll flop your knee out. You'll be in and out of the hospital in a day, and boom, I'll make my money, and you'll move on. But the problem with that is, a lot of those people will still have pain, of a decent amount. They may have complications, which can sometimes be very serious, and. I think we undersell the complications and oversell the benefits sometimes with joint replacements or any real procedure. So I think it makes sense to maximize the non-operative stuff. And most surgeons agree with that. We try out non-operative, but what they don't try is, actually do stuff that actually probably works, like fix your damn diet, stop poisoning yourself. Once you stop poisoning yourself, wow, it's amazing what happens. All right, guys, so we're coming up on an hour. I got to go check out here. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. I'll try to answer one or two more questions, and then we'll go. So John says, I see super morbid obesity at the grocery store all the time. Yeah, you do. It's crazy that before it would have gotten you in the Guinness Book of World Records. Remember James Earl Hughes? I remember that guy. I remember the guy with the big overalls. He was like 1,069 pounds or something like that. Had to be buried in a piano case or something like that. I remember that when I was a kid reading about this guy going, holy cow, how's that possible? And now you see them like 500-600 pounders all the time. It's crazy. All right, guys, appreciate it. Thank you for being part of the YouTube audience. Again, let's keep up the push, because we can make a difference, guys. And I'm going to keep fighting, and I hope you guys will join me. All right, we'll see you guys. I'm sure on another one of these lives, or I'm sure I'll put out another video tomorrow. So take care, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.